Under the cover of night, the old thief Frank picks a lock and sneaks into a victim's house. Flashlight in hand, he rummages through the rooms until he stumbles upon a photo of a man with 2 children, a boy and a girl. Staring at the picture, the thief hesitates, then leaves, accidentally dropping the photo and shattering the glass. The next morning, Frank cleans up the shards from the floor. It turns out that the house he had searched the previous night was his own. The rooms are in disarray, suggesting this isn't the first time he's riffled through his home looking for valuables. He hides the photo in a safe, where it joins money and other sentimental trinkets. That evening, as Frank dozes off with a book, a call comes through. On the video chat is his daughter, Madison, who is traveling currently in Turkmenistan. She apologizes for not calling sooner, asks how her father is doing, and wonders if her brother has been visiting him. Before Frank can respond, the connection cuts out. The next morning, Frank heads into town, admiring modern cars and young people along the way. His destination is the public library, where Jennifer works. Frank exchanges pleasantries with her and asks for her phone number. The two stroll among the bookshelves, chatting and picking out books that Frank hasn't read to tatters yet. Their conversation is interrupted by a call from Frank's son, Hunter. Frank plans to visit his favorite diner, run by Harry, but Hunter informs him that it closed a long time ago. Indeed, Frank discovers that the diner has been replaced by a cosmetics and bath supplies store. On a whim, Frank steals a bar of dog-shaped scented soap from the store. On his way home, Hunter catches up to him and drives him back. Hunter scolds his father for the mess in the house and announces that he can no longer spend 10 hours commuting every week to check on him. Since Frank refuses to move to a retirement home, Hunter brings a special assistant, a robot resembling an astronaut. Frank is adamantly against the idea of needing a caregiver, especially one made of processors, microchips and wires. He asks Hunter to take the robot back, but Hunter refuses, explaining that he spent a lot of money on it and wants someone to look after Frank in his absence. While Frank sleeps, the robot begins its duties, cleaning the house, shopping for groceries, and waking the old man. One of the robot's primary tasks is to care for Frank's health, which involves creating a daily routine, switching to a healthy and balanced diet, engaging in hobbies, exercising and taking regular walks outdoors. However, the next morning, Frank doesn't immediately remember who the robot is or why it's in his house. The robot tries to feed Frank fruit for breakfast and suggests gardening afterward. Frustrated, Frank refuses, pulls out some cookies and eats them in front of the robot on purpose. The robot's electronic brain faces a dilemma. Its programming requires to care for its owner, but if Frank won't cooperate, the robot's presence is meaningless. If it fails its mission, its memory will be wiped, and it will be sent to a warehouse to await further instructions. This speech touches Frank's heart, and he decides to give their outings a purpose. They head to the library, where Jennifer reminds Frank that the library is transitioning to a digital format and introduces him to Jake, who manages visitor relations. She also shows him rare and antique books, including Don Quixote, which are valuable as collectibles. Meanwhile, kids outside play with the robot, pushing it around. Frank teaches the robot what to do next time, activate the self-destruction program, and start a countdown. On their way home, they stop at the cosmetics store, where Frank almost gets caught trying to steal again. He manages to put the soap back before the manager checks his pockets, but the robot discreetly takes a decorative dog. This leads Frank to a brilliant, yet simple realization. He can not only teach the robot new things, but he can also teach it to steal. For the old thief, it's almost a matter of honor. After all, he never had the courage to pass on the intricacies of his craft to his son. The robot practices in the yard on various locks, while Frank regales him with stories about the tough life of a thief. He always stole only the most valuable jewels, not out of greed, but purely for noble reasons. Such valuables are always insured, so their owners would receive proportional payouts from insurance companies. Once the robot masters the basics of lockpicking, the old thief takes him on his first job. Frank plans to steal a copy of Don Quixote from the library, but runs into Jennifer. She invites him to a party. The meeting doesn't deter the thief from noting the location of the cameras and the safe. That very night, the seasoned criminal and his rookie partner set out for the heist. They paint over the camera lens, pick the lock, and sneak inside to steal the book. However, due to disruptions in his sleep routine, Frank starts having memory problems again. He confuses the robot with his son Hunter. The next morning, encouraged by their success, the old man begins planning the next heist when Madison calls. Frank's daughter doesn't like that her brother left their father alone with the robot. Even Frank's reassurances that he's doing fine fail to convince her. Frustrated, the old man scolds his daughter, saying that Hunter at least did something for him, unlike her, who ran off to the other side of the world. That evening, at the party honoring the library's new patrons, Jennifer announces that someone has stolen a valuable book. Frank considers gifting her the stolen copy, but the situation escalates with the appearance of Jake, a sleek, unpleasant man in charge of transitioning the library to a digital format. Jake introduces Jennifer to the other bigwigs and tells Frank that he doesn't belong among the guests. There's no place here for a criminal who has served his sentences. The old man doesn't take kindly to such treatment and chooses Jake as his next target. He persuades the robot to help him. Together they watch Jake's house from the lakeside to study his schedule and plan the heist. During their surveillance, the robot confesses that his memory will be wiped regardless of whether he succeeds in his tasks. The machine doesn't see itself as alive, so it's unbothered by the prospect. Just as Frank is about to finalize his perfect heist plan, Madison shows up. Hurt by her father's earlier words about her lack of effort, she decides to replace the soulless robot. She deactivates the mechanical accomplice with a secret code, telling her negligent father that she will take care of him from now on. But the old man's hunter's instinct has already been awakened. He isn't ready to abandon his mission halfway through. To persuade his daughter to reactivate the robot, he behaves terribly, throwing trash around, being demanding, and insisting that she cook and clean. Eventually, Madison gives in and restarts the robot, whom Frank now calls his friend. The old man shares his carefully crafted plan with him. When the owners leave for a visit, they will break into the house, take the jewelry, and leave quietly. Frank has prepared several escape routes, depending on various factors and unexpected developments. The robot analyzes the plan, agrees that the chances of getting caught are minimal, and the two of them successfully pull off their second heist. But the next morning, Jake arrives at Frank's house with the sheriff. They accuse the old man of returning to his criminal ways. Frank denies everything, but the police leave a surveillance van near his house. When Madison departs, Frank gives her a pair of stolen earrings, lying that they are from his old days and he has already served time for them. After saying goodbye to his daughter, Frank carefully burns the evidence, photos and plans used for the preparations. However, the robot informs him that its memory, which records everything that happened, is also evidence and could be used against them. It asks Frank to erase his memory, but he refuses. Frank hides the stolen jewelry and instructs the robot to call his son and tell him that he's dying. Hunter rushes to his father, only to realize it was all set up. Frank begs him to take a briefcase with the stolen items, claiming he doesn't want to be accused of theft after his death. Believing he's fulfilling his father's last wish, Hunter agrees, but the police stop him at the exit. Inside the briefcase, they find trinkets stolen from a soap shop. Frustrated, the police and Jake demand to search the house. Hunter tries to stop them, arguing that his father is ill and physically incapable of theft. But Frank walks out the door as if nothing happened. Hunter realizes his father manipulated him, leading to an argument. In his anger, Hunter calls the robot Frank's slave, saying he was used for his father's vile purposes. These words lead the police to a similar conclusion, that the old thief used the robot as an accomplice. They demand access to the robot's memory, but as they approach, the robot follows Frank's instructions and activates a self-destruct program. As the officers scatter in fear, Frank drives up to the door and orders the robot to get in. Together they flee from the police. The robot insists Frank erase his memory. To buy time, the thief decides to hide in the library. There they meet Jennifer. In her office, Frank finds their photos together and pictures of his children. He realizes he has been interacting with his own wife, whom he has completely forgotten due to his progressing dementia. Shocked by the revelation, he returns home, forgetting that the police are waiting for him there. As he enters the house, he is spotted, but he manages to lock the door and retreat to the second floor with the robot. Here the robot pleads with Frank to erase his memory. Frank reluctantly agrees. To reach the button, he has to embrace the robot, his last true friend. In the final scene, Frank is a resident of a nursing home. His family, his son, daughter and wife visit him. They spend time together, and when it's time to say goodbye, Frank slips a note into Hunter's hand. Check under the tomatoes in the garden. Have fun, kids. Love, Dad. Apparently the thief hid the stolen goods there. As his family leaves, Frank returns to his room. He notices a robot of the same model as his, followed by another. But these are entirely different robots. With a bittersweet smile, the lonely old man enters his room. That's it. Subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts about the movie in the comments. Take care.